Hey there everybody, welcome to Auto Bears, and this is no longer the Subaru XV, it is in fact now the new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek. So what was formerly the Subaru XV has in fact undergone its midlife facelift. So along with a new name, we've got updates to Subaru's eyesight safety system, a new infotainment system, updates to the styling, both front and rear, and a bit more structural rigidity for increased on-road handling. And I'm on a Subaru drive day to experience the new Crosstrek, both on and off-road. So if you want to know what the new Crosstrek is like, stick with me to find out. Now when it comes to the Crosstrek styling, I actually think it looks very handsome and instantly screams Subaru. You've got that raised ride height, you've got the bumpers that have all cladded up at the front and rear and around the wheel arches, and yeah, it just screams active lifestyle and will definitely suit those that do want to go off-road and make use of the permanent all-wheel drive and things like the roof rails as well, which you get as standard. And that's the thing with Subaru, is that they are quite a niche brand here in the UK. There are very few brands that bring out cars that just as standard come with off-roading credentials, full all-wheel drive, and that ability to just kind of go anywhere. But that's the thing with Subaru customers, is that they are very brand loyal, because Subaru does have a very strong history with, well, dependability and World Rally Championships, so they know a thing or two about four-wheel drive and going off the beaten track. So yeah, when it comes to the styling of the new Crosstrek, I am really liking it, and like I said, it instantly screams Subaru. And like the models we get here in the UK, excluding the Solterra, it has got this kind of mixture of being an estate car and an SUV combined. But granted, it's got a bit more perhaps of a hatchback feel because of its shortness in length, especially when compared to the likes of the Outback or the Forester. But you let me know what you think of the new Crosstrek styling in the comments section below. Are you a fan of the name now as well? Because this is something that's going to be happening globally for the Crosstrek, and we are following on from the Americans that have always named this car the Crosstrek. Or do you perhaps prefer the XV when it was, yeah, pre-facelifted? Let me know in the comments section below. But on that note, I think it's time we stop looking at the exterior of the Crosstrek and we see what it's like on the inside. Sat in the front of the new Subaru Crosstrek, you are greeted by a very comfortable, well laid out and very Subaru interior, and that's not a bad thing. If you have driven any Subarus over the last 5 years or so, you'll feel very much at home in here. Now, because this is a kind of family hatchback that's raised, getting in and out of the Crosstrek is really easy because of that raised seating position. So if you do suffer from any kind of mobility issues, this is one car you could look at. And we have got things like grab handles here on the driver's side as well as on the front passenger side, so that is something. Also, these seats are very comfortable. They do hold a big bear like me in place, and both the driver and front passenger seats are electrically adjustable, and I have got electric adjustable lumbar support, so that again is really handy. Also, with the steering, I have got both rake and reach adjustment, so getting that ideal driving position is easy. And then when it comes to things like interior quality, I'm going to say it's actually very good, and again it feels very Subaru-y, and by that is in terms of the kind of hard scratchy plastics do feel of a very good quality, but on top of the dash it is nice and soft. Also got some leatherette trim here on top of the doors, and also on the, well, a bit of hard scratchy plastic on the door panel, but a bit of leatherette lower down, and also on the center armrest. We got a little bit of piano black plastic here on the center console, but yeah, it actually feels very well screwed together. Now, I will mention that these seats are not real leather, they are leatherette, but they do feel of a good sturdy quality and should stand the test of time. So yeah, first impressions when you kind of get into the new Crosstrek, well, it feels very much like a modern day Subaru, which is, yeah, comfortable, well screwed together and very purposeful as well. Cubby spaces are also pretty decent in here. We've got some good sized door pockets where you can get perhaps a medium sized bottle of drink in there, but they're not lined with any fabric, so loose items will rattle around a bit. Now on the center console up front, we've got a little rubberized tray area, which is perfect to put your phone on. I will mention that there's no wireless charging in here, but just above it we have got a USB-A, USB-C and also an AUX in socket there as well. So that's a little bit old fashioned, but it's great to see. We've also got a couple of cup holders here on the kind of rear part of the center console. They are pretty deep and rubber lined as well. There are no plastic grippers, but they are deep enough so that bottles of drink and that shouldn't fall out. Now we have actually got a 12-volt socket here, just a little bit further back on the center console, and there's a little kind of tray area where perhaps you could put the key in there, but it's not rubberized. Then under the armrest, we've got a bit of additional space, which is actually quite deep, but again, there's no rubber lining or fabric lining, so loose items will rattle around. And then we have got the glove box, which is of an okay size, again, not lined with any fabric or rubber, but the book pack, definitely Subaru have been looking at Hyundai's book packs, does take up quite a bit of space, so that's just something to be aware of there. But yeah, when it comes to cubby spaces here in the new Crosstrek, they are pretty good. Now I haven't got the car for too long, but basically when it comes to things like buttons in the cabin, they're predominantly on the steering wheel. There are a lot of buttons on here, so if you are used to having a Subaru car, you will feel right at home. Now we have got a couple of buttons surrounding the 11.6-inch infotainment system. It is set up in a portrait mode, and on the left and right hand side of it we have got your temperature changes, so you can do that whilst you're on the move, which is handy for your driver and front passenger. A couple of rotary dials to deal with things like changing radio station or the volume, and then a couple of buttons as well to do the demisting at the front and rear. So I have experienced this before. I think it was on the Outback I saw this, and when it comes to the infotainment system, it's actually a pretty decent system. It looks as though Subaru have done their homework, and it is kind of split into three sections. You have got things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. They are wireless as well actually on the Crosstrek, and if I can do in a little bit, I will kind of some coverage of me kind of going through the infotainment system, but like I said, I haven't got the car for too long. And then we got the dials, which are very traditional and analog, with a little colour TFT screen in the centre to give you all your driver information, and just using a couple of buttons on the left hand side of the steering wheel you can go through all the various menus. So yeah, sat in here on the new Crosstrek, it feels just like a Subaru, which is no bad thing. It's well screwed together, the quality of the materials is very good, and yeah, it'd be perfect for those with an active lifestyle. And on that note, I think it's time that we leave the front of the Crosstrek and see what it's like for rear passengers. Sat in the back of the Crosstrek, it's actually not too bad back here. It does feel quite spacious and comfortable, definitely for somebody of my height. Now that driver's seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide, and as you can see, I've got a good amount of knee room. I can get my feet underneath the driver's seat as well if I want to stretch out, and actually if I sit up straight, my head is not touching the ceiling. There's actually about an inch there, which is very handy. So if you are 6 foot tall, yes, you might feel a little bit cramped back here, but it's definitely suitable for children. Now I would say though, if they're sat in the middle seats, they have got to navigate over a small transmission tunnel, but when it comes to kids, we have got ISOFIX supports on the outer seats, and weirdly, I thought they were plastic covers that you could remove, which are very easy to lose and break, but actually they're very unique in that they slide underneath, exposing the ISOFIX bar. So that's actually quite handy. And these doors do open pretty wide, so that should make a fixing a child's seat quite easy for you. Now, when it comes to cubby spaces, I'm going to say it's okay. We got some, yeah, okay sized door pockets. You can get a small, possibly medium sized bottle of drink in there. Again, not lined with any fabric. Now, I haven't got an airplane style pocket on the back of the driver's seat, but I have on the back of the passenger seat, which is a bit odd there. And then finally, yes, I have got a couple of extra cup holders here, which are rubber lined as well with some little rubber grippers. So that's very handy. So I do like that. And then when it comes to features, well, we have got a USB-A and a USB-C charging input here just on the back, so that's very handy for charging your mobile devices. But other than that, that's kind of pretty much it in the back of the Crosstrek. But the windows are of a really lovely size and shape. They do allow a lot of light in. I've not checked yet if they open all the way. However, I will post a clip on top of where I'm talking now so you can see how far they go down. But other than that, yeah, it's nice and comfortable, sat here in the back of the Crosstrek. I could easily do a medium, possibly long length journey in the Crosstrek, but those, like I said, who are 6 foot tall might just feel, yeah, a little bit claustrophobic back here, even with the lighter headlining. But on that note, I think it's time that we leave the back seats and we see what the boot is like. Now, the boot area of the Crosstrek is probably the car's Achilles heel, because once you get the boot open, you are greeted with 315 litres of space, which in this segment is not that good. It's probably one of the smallest in class. But when you have got the boot open, you are greeted with a nice wide square load area. There is a bit of a scuff plate here, which is very handy, and I do like the little Crosstrek which is there as a bit of an Easter egg for you. This particular car has got the bumper protector as well. There's a tiny bit of a bootlet to navigate over, around 1 or 2 inches, but you could get a large suitcase in there, a couple of weekend bags, but rivals have got much more boot capacity in this class. Now, it's not devoid of features. We've got some very sturdy tethering hooks. We have got a number of these little kind of shopping hooks as well, and yeah, there's a tiny bit of underfloor storage, but this particular car has got a boot lining as well added to it, so that's definitely an accessory you can get from your dealership. Now, if you want to get the seats down, you can do it from the sides or the rear of the rear passenger doors, or you can actually reach in and give it a bit of a push. Now, let's just remove this. When you get the seats down, one positive is that it's almost a flat load area, so that does mean that is actually quite a versatile boot area with the seats down in the Crosstrek. And one of the things I do like as an accessory is you do get some rubber lining for the backs of the seats, so it does mean if you are loading any large bulky items, or perhaps if you've been, I don't know, surfing or anything like that, or doing something that's gotten muddy, you can put it in the boot, especially with the seats down, and it's not going to get dirty on the fabric. So that's actually one thing I do like, and again, it just shows that Subaru have made this car for those who have an active and dirty lifestyle. But yeah, when it comes to the boot capacity, it is lagging behind the rest of the rivals in this class, and I'm not quite sure if you can get the tonneau cover underneath. I will have a little look and put something at the bottom of the screen to say kind of yes or no. But yeah, this is kind of the Achilles heel to the Crosstrek, especially once compared to its rivals. And on that note, I think it's time we get the boot down, get those rear seats up, and we take the new Crosstrek for a drive and see what it's like on the road. So once you start driving in the Crosstrek, first impressions are actually very positive. It does feel like a big improvement over the old XV. It feels a lot more refined on the road, and as I mentioned, it has been made 10% stiffer for better road handling and road manners. Now, because we've got kind of a high seating position, when it comes to visibility, that is actually a big positive. I got a commanding view of the road ahead. The A-pillars aren't as kind of chunky as I was expecting them to be, and because of the way that they're raked, I haven't had any issues looking around them at any junctions. The wing mirrors are actually set back on the doors, and they're a nice size and shape as well, and I have got blind spot monitoring. It is actually a little kind of light that's stuck on there. It's a little bit different from what we've seen in other cars out there, which is traditionally something on the mirror itself. And then if I look over my shoulder, I actually find that the C-pillar is surprisingly thin. That little extra window there really does help with just kind of your blind spot and all-round visibility. And then rear visibility, again, is another positive. Because this isn't the longest Subaru out there in the range, it's got a real nice field of view. And then you've got things like reversing cameras as well to help you when you're parking, but the Crosstrek doesn't feel like a massive car, so that is something that does work well for it. So yeah, once you start driving the new Crosstrek, it does feel like an improvement over the old XV. It does feel like a much nicer car to just drive around and experience. Now, there are two trim levels to choose from in the Crosstrek range. There is the entry level limited and the top of the range touring, which is what I've got here. And I'll be absolutely honest, you're in for a winner regardless of which trim level you go for. Don't be put off by the term limited, because it has a huge amount of standard equipment, especially when it comes to things like safety. You do get Subaru's 4th generation eyesight system, and I think one of the big features on there is you've got 50% more coverage from the cameras, so that is a big bonus. Now, at the time of recording, the Crosstrek hasn't got a Euro NCAP score, but the XV was a 5-star car, so yeah, I can't imagine this getting any worse than the XV. I think this will definitely be a 5-star car as well. But when it comes to kind of personal choice, I probably would go for the touring, just get all those extra features. I mean, yes, you do get the sunroof. The only thing I have noticed that you don't get an uprated sound system, so that's a little bit disappointing. But I've got to be honest, driving around in this touring today, it's just been an absolute joy to just kind of sit behind the wheel of. But as I said, regardless of which trim level you go for, you'll get a huge amount of standard equipment, especially when it comes to safety. Now, when it comes to powering the Crosstrek, underneath the bonnet, I have got a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, which is linked to the e-Boxer mild hybrid system, and it's producing 134 brake horsepower and 182 Newton meters of torque. Now, it is sending that power through all 4 wheels via a CVT box. I can hear you groaning in the background, but if you drive this in a relaxed manner, it's actually a nice system to use. It is very fluid, and only if you really put your foot down do you get that CVT drone coming into the cabin. But when you're just kind of driving along day to day, there's a nice amount of pickup. Engine noise is actually kind of quite quiet and hidden away, and yeah, it does the job very well. Now, I will say this is not a sporty type of family car, because the 0 to 60 time is around 10.8 seconds. So yeah, it's not the sportiest car out there, but you know what? If you're buying something like a Crosstrek, it's because you're going to be going off-road. You're going to be wanting that power and torque really to kind of get you at low speed to your destination. Where I am now, this is the perfect kind of Subaru hunting ground, because I'm going through these narrow lanes and it's actually making it quite effortless. Granted, I would like a little bit more power, maybe 160, 170, just enough to kind of, you know, get going, particularly when you're perhaps on the motorway from a junction or the lights. But just this kind of driving about, I've got no issues with whatsoever. It does feel at home in the country. That's the one thing about Subarus. They are a niche brand, and this is their hunting ground. This is kind of in the countryside where, you know, in adverse weather, where you've got snow, heavy rain, anything like that, this will deal with it brilliantly. You've got your X mode to deal with, sand, mud, snow, everything like that, so you know you're well catered for. Now, with this being a hybrid car, you're probably thinking about economy. So it's not the most impressive, I will be honest, and it does say that from Subaru they claim around 36.8 miles per gallon on a combined WLTP cycle. So this is where personally I would love to see Subaru make some full hybrids, not mild hybrids, but full hybrids, where you can perhaps get maybe 10 miles of range just purely on electric. But obviously you'll have that regen system, you'll have the engine charging up the battery, and that way you'll definitely get your MPG to increase. But you know what, it suits the Crosstrek really well. This is a nice family SUV to drive. It's a bit wet there, and it is, yeah, it's just a lovely car to drive. Like I said, just don't rush it. So what's the ride and refinement like in the new Crosstrek? Well, again, this has been a massive improvement over the XV, and in terms of ride quality, I am very impressed by it. Deals with a lot of the bumps and imperfections really well. Yes, a couple of them do come into the cabin, but on the start of this route that I drove a little bit earlier on, which unfortunately I wasn't recording, the tarmac was terrible. It wasn't proper potholes, but there were good sections where at least like 1.5 inches of the tarmac had been ripped up. This thing just glided over them. It really did not notice. So as a result, the ride comfort was very impressive. I have also taken this off-road, and it just dealt with some pretty nice kind of climbs and drops really well. Again, it was very effortless and wasn't uncomfortable. Now at low speed, like I am right now, I can feel some vibrations coming into the cabin. It's not the nicest of roads I'm driving on. I am on a country lane, but it's not uncomfortable. These seats actually are really comfortable. They do take a big amount, or a large amount, of the vibration out from the road. So that's something. So it does mean you can do a long journey in the Crosstrek, and you should come out the other end feeling nice and relaxed. So yeah, when it comes to the ride, I'm really impressed by it. And you're probably gathering as well from the refinement side, this is a big step up as well. Like I said, you really have to put your foot down to get engine noise into the cabin. And when you're driving at, say, 60 miles an hour, the main intrusion is a bit of tyre roar. There's not really much in the way of wind noise on the wing mirrors, but no, it just seems to be that little bit of tyre roar. Now I'm going to accelerate in a second, so you'll get an idea of what the engine noise is like in the Crosstrek. Here we go. I mean, yes, it's there. It's not as loud as Subarus of old. So the kind of sound insulation has been increased on this car. It must have been, because that's not as intrusive as I was expecting it to be. And already it's settled down. So yeah, I mean, I'm driving around at, okay, what was about 40, 50 miles an hour. And yeah, this is very refined. I really am impressed by this. So yeah, when it comes to the ride and refinement on the Crosstrek, I'll put my foot down again. Okay, I'm going to let the engine settle. Yeah, I'm really impressed. The refinement, a little bit of tyre roar, that's it. I can barely hear the engine. This is really, really impressive. So yeah, so thumbs up when it comes to the ride and refinement. Now, when it comes to the Crosstrek's handling, I've actually been pleasantly surprised. Now, it's no sporty SUV by any means, but it's perfect for everyday driving. Now, the steering wheel is a nice size and shape. I do like the thickness of it, and the leather quality is actually very high, and I do feel like this should stand the test of time. Now, because of the performance, and we've got that raised ground clearance, because this is a little bit of a soft roader, it does mean that when you do chuck it into the corners, there is a little bit of lean there, which is nice and predictable. And then you've got the confidence of that all-wheel drive system to kind of keep you in check. And then the steering itself has got a little bit of weight to it as well, which is a nice, pleasant surprise. And yeah, if you do push it in the corners, there is a bit of roll and lean, but it just feels predictable. And it's light enough to make parking the Crosstrek an absolute doddle. Plus you got all the little sensors and everything to help you out there as well. So that's something that you would definitely feel happy with. So yeah, when it comes to the handling of the Crosstrek. It's not going to win any handling awards, and it's not going to be the sportiest SUV out there, but it's perfect for everyday driving. So what are my thoughts on the new Subaru Crosstrek? Well, in my brief drive, this does feel like an improvement over the XV. And with Subaru having a strong brand loyalty with their customers, if you have got an XV and you're looking to kind of get a new one, so i.e. the Crosstrek, you won't be disappointed. And I do feel like this facelift is more than skin deep. I mean, I do love the styling, but I feel like Subaru have done a little bit more than just make it a bit stiffer and improve the safety systems and the infotainment system. So it does feel like an all-new car in some respects. Now, granted, yes, there is the elephant in the room, which is practicality. And if you are just after a kind of mainstream family SUV and practicality is important to you, then yeah, you're going to avoid the Crosstrek. However, if you have an active lifestyle, you need something that you know can go off-road, is dependable, and is just perfect for that lifestyle, then definitely the Crosstrek could be for you. And in terms of standard equipment, Subaru do a very good job with just packing their cars full of tech and equipment. So that is a big positive there. And also in terms of price, I actually think it's very respectable. I think the Crosstrek starts at around just shy of £35,000. And even if you go from the Limited to the Touring, that only kind of goes up by about 2.5, 3 grand. So you get an awful lot of car and capability for your money. And for a lot of people, that is actually very important. But I would love to have the Crosstrek for a full review, because it is a very lovely car to drive. I have been impressed by it, but I would like to see what it's like to live with. I would like to see things like the economy with that mild hybrid system, just see if I can kind of get a bit of a boost above that 36 mpg that Subaru claim. But yeah, it's a very nicely kitted out car. It's very safe, not the most practical, but very capable, especially if you want to go off-road. So perfect for those with an active lifestyle. And like I said, with a lot of Subaru owners, they're going to stick with the brand, so they will be happy with the car they got now, then they will be happy with this. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed my first drive of the new Subaru Crosstrek, as well as taking it off-road. As always, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notifications icon. And if you've got any questions about the Crosstrek, please put them down in the comments section below, and I will do my utmost to answer for you. Of course, I'm on social media. I'm on X, Instagram and Facebook, so don't forget to follow me on there as well. But in the meantime, have yourselves a great day, and I will catch you all in the next video. So take care, everybody, and bye-bye.